right before camp start. Lord willing, this is edifying and straight to the point. Uh, this is inspired by a TikTok live I was watching yesterday with some of the brothers of GMS, Mexico, GMS, Australia, GMS, Chicago. It was on a certain live. And of course, it was like, from what I was hearing, the other side sound like some Christian Israelites. But it made me think of this title. I was going to do maybe a TikTok live on it too. I might actually do it. Like what you see on the screen, in order, let me make sure I say this right. And I truly believe this, let alone in the scriptures you can see the same thing. Salaki, y'all. So again, the title of this lesson is in order to believe you must be taught, or to be a student you must be taught. In order to be a teacher, you must learn. Again, with being a student. So first, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. Mighty Shalom to the hopeful elect in the same Spirit. Lord willing, as a whole, y'all continue in sound doctrine. Shalom to the Akwaf, the sisters of this faith that's believing. Lord willing, you continue to pursue your lot, being a loving and silent and virtuous wife. Lord willing, Yahweh Shemashai has mercy on the other brothers and sisters that is not in the faith. So, I'm going to start with this. Again, this might not even be long. I got to the spot, I would say a little late, but I knew I still was going to bring some few points out. So this is Romans, the 10th chapter, starting at verse 14. Like, it hits in the KJV, but the wording in the NLT, Lord willing, is going to hit even harder. This is Romans chapter 10, verse 14 in the NLT. It says, but how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? So, in this is for all of y'all that come in this faith. Even if you Christians, we must be taught again. How can you believe in Yahushai, or who you so-called called Jesus, if you fully don't, you're not taught on where did J's come in? Where did Jesus come from in the translation? Why was his name translated? This whole thing is about being taught. In order to believe in Jesus, you, of course, a lot of y'all were taught maybe a few verses and that was it. But in order to understand the breakdown of the Hebrew Israelites, not just because we say salvation only for the Israelites, you have to get the whole conclusion of the matter, like it says in Ecclesiastes, right? Let me get this verse, because that Romans, the 10th chapter, verse 14, it already hits, right? If you haven't been taught, how can you believe, right? Right? This is Hebrews 5 and 12. In the KJV, it says, for when for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. Regardless, if especially if you're a Christian and you're trying to see why the Hebrew Israelites believe this way, you have to be taught again, right? Ask your question, but really just come to learn, right? Because in order to understand this doctrine, you have to be taught, right? So that's a false doctrine. Or they teaching about race, or they just care about their own color. You got to get the whole conclusion. That's how you know. In order to be a believer, you have to believe in the whole Bible. But to believe in the whole Bible, you have to be taught, right? Now, just because I was guided in the scriptures does not mean that, oh, because now that you're taught, oh, do you believe what's said? Guess what? You have to have the spirit of the people of Berea, right? Let me go to that point too. You're going to go back to Romans, the 10th chapter, but everything has to line up. So Acts, the 17th chapter, verse 10 and 11, it says, and the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily whether those things were so. So, and before they started to rebuke or say that's not the truth, they had a readiness mind to hear it. Then after hearing it, all the information that came out, they went to search it daily, right? Whether it was so. That's a person that is becoming a student. Then when they search and see that what was said is so, then, oh snap, they're going to become what? A believer, right? So in order to become a believer, you must become a student. If you have the ability of being a teacher, you must become a student, a believer, then a teacher, right? The people of Berea, they had a readiness mind. What is that? That's a mind of a student, right? Before you could pass a test, you have to be willing to study, be willing to hear the teacher, because the teacher was speaking about this. You can't pass no test if you wasn't paying attention in class. That is a student. You have to learn. Then after you are a student and learning, you become a believer. In order to tell somebody what you learn, how can I tell somebody what I learned if I don't believe it? Right? Yes, I can say, hey, this is what the brother was going into, but now I'm just remembering what they said, because that's what students do. You hear something and then you perceive it, but does it mean that you believe it? You believe it when you start walking in it and you start speaking of it with a delight. Like, oh man, you speak with it with a delight. So again, in order to be a believer, you must be a student, right? Brothers is always talking about learn the doctrine. How can you learn how can you be a believer before you even learn the doctrine? So again, Romans 10 and 14 in the NLT. But how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? Especially, I mean, of course, you men, you got a bigger chip on your shoulder. But a lot of you women, you're not in the lane as a man. But naturally, you have the most time, especially when when you free, to be able to watch these lessons and grow in faith, right? Because you should be the ultimate student, because you're a woman, you're the weaker vessel, right? Your husband's supposed to dwell with you according to knowledge. Even if you don't have a husband or you do, you should be accumulating the word in your free time, because you are a target by the enemy. You want to always consume in righteousness, right? Even though, hey, you're going to be a human, you're going to have some time where you want to be free and do your thing, but you're going to try to consume the word as much as you can as a student so you can grow in being a believer. Lot's wife was walking with him, but guess what? She still turned around, right? So at the end of the day, men and women should always pursue to be a student. And while being a student, you grow in believing. And you men, the more sharp you become as a believer, the better you are as a teacher. And I say this even to myself. Verse 15, it says, how will anyone go and tell them without being sent? How can you be sent, right? You have to be a student, grow into being a believer, a firm believer, a delightful believer. And then the more you grow, guess what? That talent is going to grow in you and you're going to be able to teach. That's why in 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter, it says, neglect not the gift that's within you, right? It says that is why the scriptures say how beautiful are the feet of the messengers who bring good news, right? And those that are teaching his word, they're going to be a supreme student. I mean it. Apostle Tahar, Apostle Gabar, Apostle Remlab, Apostle Rakai, even the other elders, the bishops, and even the other men underneath them. How can they get to the level that they were at? Even you brothers that have been affiliates for 5, 6 years, 10 years, how can you get to the level that you are at if you're not a student? You have to be a supreme student to master karate, taekwondo, nujitsu. You have to be a student. You have to be willing to be trained, to be molded, to be that fighter. right? So that eventually you'll be able to show somebody skills, technique, right? When you drop down to verse 17, so faith comes by hearing. Faith comes from hearing. That is hearing the good news of Hamashiach, right? So to be a student, you have to have that willpower to hear. Because when you in karate, instead of holding your anger and all this other stuff, in order to master a technique or to do a technique, you have to learn how to hear, right? But I ask, have the people of Israel actually heard the message? Yes, they have. The message has gone throughout the earth in the words to all the world, right? Now, I'm going to stop there. Lord willing, I can get back in there because I have multiple precepts that we can go into. But first and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. We about to do the GMS Unity Camp. Lord willing, we see you on the channel again. Lord willing, if I'm reminded, through the Spirit, I'm going to do this again. Lord willing, I might go live right after this live. If my phone charged, I will redo this lesson. Okay? So with that, shalom, shalom.